The following program is sponsored by Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County.
Welcome to our 47th season of Mosaic. I'm your host, Susan Shulman Pertnoy. Mosaic is Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County's weekly news magazine, exploring the most critical issues facing Jews here and around the world. Since October 7th, the surge in antisemitism and anti-Israel activity has felt overwhelming to many of us. We often wonder, is this a sudden cultural shift, or is there something more calculated at play? Today, we'll hear from an expert in antisemitism and also get perspective from leaders at Florida's highest profile school, the University of Florida. That's today on Mosaic.
The Activate Jewish Life movement is a first of its kind. Intends to connect with families with children, to connect with teens, to connect with young adults. However people want to engage with Jewish life, we want to make sure that we are providing them with an opportunity to engage in ways that have relevance and meaning for them. What an opportunity we have to change the face of Jewish life.
We're so proud to celebrate our community visionaries, donors who contribute $1 million or more, serving as an inspiration for all of Jewish Palm Beach. Did you know that you can now enjoy Mosaic on the go? Listen to the Mosaic podcast by scanning the QR code on the screen or find it wherever you listen to podcasts. Welcome back. Joining us today is Vlad Khaykin from the Wiesenthal Center. Welcome to Mosaic. It's a privilege to have you join us today.
Thanks very much for having me, and thanks for having me in your community. This is a really vibrant and welcoming community. The reception has been really incredible, and it's such an important community for us. It's already one of the largest Jewish communities in the United States.
And fastest growing.
And exactly, and it's also among the fastest growing. Unfortunately, it's also a community that has experienced a tremendous amount of anti-Semitism. I think there were the fifth largest number of anti-Semitic incidents in the country happened right here in Florida, and within Florida, I think Palm Beach County had the greatest number within Florida. So this is also a place where there's a lot of extremist groups and a lot of anti-Semitism, unfortunately, which is why it was important for us to establish a presence here in Palm Beach County, which is where we now have an office.
Yes, which is also very fortunate for us to have you here today. Thank you. So tell us your title
Sure.
at the center and what your role exactly entails.
Yeah, so I'm the Executive Vice President for Social Impact and Partnerships for North America at the Simon Wiesenthal Center. And that involves overseeing our advocacy work, including our lobbying and policy work. It also includes forming partnerships and coalitions both within the Jewish community, with other NGOs, other organizations, as well as outside of the Jewish community with other ethnic groups, other religious communities, and so on, because really that's what the fight takes.
You're from the former Soviet Union. Can you tell us if your background had anything to do with your career path?
Yeah, it certainly did. My life's work is deeply personal. I began my life in the United States as a refugee. I came here in the late 1980s with my family as political refugees fleeing state-sponsored anti-Semitism in the Soviet Union. I'm also the grandson of Holocaust survivors, and so this work is really deeply personal for me. I've spent most of my career, academic and professional, trying to understand this phenomenon of anti-Semitism that so radically upended my life, that of my family, of my community, and of the Jewish people and beyond, right? This is a phenomenon that has sent people and nations to war, that has caused mass migration. It's something that is deeply impactful in our world, and it's something that I've really tried to understand. Really, what I've understood my fascination to be is the ways in which falsehoods shape reality.
It's crazy.
And specifically the way that falsehoods can be weaponized by state and non-state actors in order to advance certain geopolitical agendas. And so that's what a lot of my work concerns.
Is it possible for you to give us a brief historical background on anti-Semitism?
Oh boy, well, that question entails thousands of years of history, right? So anti-Semitism, and there's multiple schools of thought on this when you approach anti-Semitism studies as a field. There are those folks who are from the continuity school who say it's more or less one phenomenon that, yes, evolves over time, but it's essentially one through line throughout history. And then there's a school of thought that says, no, the anti-Judaism of the medieval times is not the same as modern anti-Semitism. I happen to think there's maybe some truth in both, but I do see a through line. For example, many people will tell you that anti-Semitism began as an anti-religious prejudice, right? Essentially a theological opposition to Jews as a religious community. And then it evolved over time into racialized anti-Semitism and conspiracist anti-Semitism, political forms, etc. But the truth is we have echoes of those forms already thousands of years ago. If you open the Torah and in the opening lines of Exodus, right, you have a story where a new leader has come to power in the land of Egypt, a new pharaoh. And he says, behold, the people of Israel have become too numerous among us, and if there should befall any war to Egypt, right, if we get into a war, they will join with our enemies and rise up against us, right, and essentially take our lands away from us. This is modern sort of disloyalty charges or dual loyalty charges.
Going on right now.
Right, exactly. So this notion that Jews cannot be trusted to be loyal citizens of the countries they inhabit, that they are a fifth column who might look like us but really want to do us harm. This is not only one of the most widespread ideas today, and we know that from polling not only in this country but around the world, but it's also one of the most ancient, right? This distrust of Jews as people who belong, as people who have the nation's best interests at heart, has been with us for a very, very long time, and it's carried all the way through Nazi Germany. Exactly. Every piece of anti-Semitic propaganda builds on that which came before it, and so what we have today is a very, very, very potent ideology that again. Although it's based in falsehoods, creates tremendous carnage, not only for the Jewish people, but any nation that embraces it.
It's so frightening. So tell us how it relates to what's going on college campuses.
Oh, sure. Well, so, I want to stress this point. I think we have been caught unawares in so many ways. Most people have approached anti-Semitism as a kind of organic social prejudice, right? It's the version that says, people distrust and feel threatened by or hate those who are different than them. People with a different language, a different religion, who dress differently, eat differently, etc. We tend to suspect, we tend to fear or whatever. And that is certainly a factor within anti-Semitism, of course. Jews, do have a different religion. We speak, the Hebrew language, and, we might dress differently, look differently, whatever it is. So it is a factor. However, what we have missed is that anti-Semitism has also been a tool of politics, a tool of empire building, and it has to be recognized as such. It is a weapon that is leveraged by state actors against their geopolitical adversaries, right? And so, as an example, much of my research has been around Soviet disinformation campaigns. Obviously, coming from where I do, this was really important for me to understand the ways in which the Soviet regime, through its intelligence services, weaponized anti-Semitism in the form of anti-Zionism to advance a certain geopolitical agenda. And one of the things they did is that they understood that if you want to reshape the way that people view the world and try to understand it, where would you target in a society? You target the sites of knowledge production and knowledge certification. Where do people go in a society to learn what is real and true about the world? Well, they go to universities and colleges, research facilities, journalists, newsrooms, and increasingly today, social media, right? So those are going to be the targets for disinformation and propaganda campaigns. And so the Soviets understood that if you want to basically mainstream noxious anti-Semitic ideas that have, been discredited, you need to give them an air of academic legitimacy. And so they created an entirely new discipline called Zionology. The role of Zionologists essentially was to launder anti-Semitic ideas and to sell them as intellectually and academically credible ideas. And specifically in that case, to give them a sort of leftist, Marxist, internationalist sort of spin. We're talking about a socialist leftist regime, so it had to be framed in that way. So they took ideas that were popular on the far right, fascist ideas and so on. Some of these people were Hitler admirers, and they essentially gave them a leftist spin and spun them, right? So yeah. I'll give you a concrete example. The Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion is widely considered by anti-Semitism scholars to be one of the sort of blueprints for modern anti-Semitic conspiracism. That was created by, almost certainly by a right-wing monarchist regime. When the Soviets took power in Russia, they picked up that propaganda and they, again, gave it this leftist spin by doing what? Well, the story at the heart of the protocols is that the Jews are engaged in a global plot of domination to turn nations into Jewish fiefdoms where the Jews will sort of lord it over the Goyim, right? That's just imperialism by another name. And so they took that right-wing, racist, anti-Semitic idea and called it Zionist imperialism and then churned out endless propaganda, essentially popularizing this noxious right-wing racist propaganda and giving it an air of legitimacy.
But why are college students so vulnerable?
Yeah, well, college students and young people in general are targeted because people believe they're impressionable, right? They think that their ideas about the world have not formed, have not crystallized, have not hardened yet, and they can be manipulated. That's one reason. The other reason is because, frankly, because young people are optimistic. They are idealistic. And anti-Semitism of every variety presents itself as a kind of narrative of liberation, a narrative of social justice, right? And that's true on the left and on the right. If you listen very carefully to what, for example, the Nazi regime, the far-right fascist regime was saying, it was very much around social justice, right? It was the Jews are exploiting us, the Jews are oppressing us, the rightful owners and people who should be in control of this country, the German people, et cetera, their power has been usurped by foreign actors, right? The Jews, the Zionists, et cetera. And so it always tells this kind of narrative, this emancipatory narrative. It presents as a kind of politics of liberation or a project of emancipation, but it does so in order to oppress, in order to sow anti-democratic ideas in society and so on. And so they've, again, targeted college students because they are idealistic. They want to change the world. And anti-Semitism says, yes, isn't it terrible, all of this suffering? Whatever you think is going wrong with the world, anti-Semitism purports to explain it. It explains or alleges to explain the delta between the world as we perceive it and the world as we wish it was. Why is there suffering? Why is there war? Why is there injustice?
Because of the Jews.
Because of the Jews or the Zionists or the globalists, whatever euphemism you want to apply.
Why is the goal creating ultimate division?
It's a great question. And it is the goal. State actors for decades now have been exploiting both sides of most contentious issues in our society. The old adage that a house divided against itself cannot stand. They're trying to rend society from within. And they say so explicitly, that if we sow chaos into internal American domestic activity, that the United States will have to essentially pull back from the world stage to focus on its own internal turmoil, allowing Russia, Iran, Qatar, et cetera, to pick up trade contracts, defense contracts, diplomatic relations with other nations as the United States pulls back from the world scene, which is also why they're promoting promoting isolationist elements in United States society, because the more that people want us to pull back from the world stage, that gives an opportunity to these actors to then step in, right? So it's partly, it's a much bigger play than just, the Jews. Yes, some of these people really are, hardened anti-Semites, but it's a much bigger geopolitical play than anything related narrowly to just the Jews.
How do you maintain your optimism for the future?
Well, I draw strength from our ancestors, from our tradition. We have survived a lot. The Jewish people have been through many things, and we've always said that this too shall pass, and we will outlive them, and we will. We're a resilient people. We have survived against tremendous odds, and I believe that this too we will overcome. So I draw strength from my family, the people who came before me. My grandfather fought Nazis across Europe, liberated multiple European capitals from fascism, and so I rely on our history, on our tradition, on our ancestors to give me the strength and optimism that we can conquer this too.
Thank you.
I'm Israel Chai.
Coming up, we're going on campus at the University of Florida, which boasts the largest Hillel chapter in the nation. We'll talk to its leader next on Mosaic.
If you want to make a difference in the lives of people, there's no better place to be engaged, involved, and give than the Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County.
And being a part of our collective efforts, we are able to strengthen Jewish life, care for those people in need, care for the people of Israel, and confront anti-Semitism and acts of hatred against the Jewish community.
This is just the beginning. We can build this community even bigger and better.
Together, we can look to a very, very bright future.
Now is the time. Come and try something that you've never tried before.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Join us, because the mission of the Federation has never been more critical than it is today.
Did you know that you can now enjoy Mosaic on the go? Listen to the Mosaic podcast by scanning the QR code on the screen or find it wherever you listen to podcasts. Welcome back. Joining us now is Rabbi Jonah Zinn. He's the executive director of the Hillel chapter at the University of Florida. Welcome, Rabbi Jonah.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
It's great to have you. I'm sorry we're not in person, but anyway, how would you describe the mood on campus for Jewish students right now?
I think overall at the University of Florida, Jewish students feel welcome and safe. And, we're increasingly seeing that the global proliferation of anti-Semitism is affecting their daily lives in really significant ways. And I think in many respects, there's really two stories, right? One of a public university campus that is very safe and welcoming, and many interpersonal relationships that are very strong. And at the same time, we see anti-Semitism creeping into their everyday existence on social media, influencing their peers who may not be as familiar with Jews. So it's a challenging time on campus in many respects.
Oh, I'm sure it is. Where are the students finding joy, and what can be difficult times?
Yeah, I think it's, one of the ways that we respond to all the negativity directed at our people right now is really honing in on that joy that you referenced. And for us at Hillel, it's about creating opportunities where our students can be proud and public about their Jewish identity. So last semester, we hosted a Jewish Cultural Festival in the heart of campus. We had, hundreds and hundreds, 500 plus students that attended. And it gave our students not only an opportunity to really affirm their Jewish identity and celebrate it in the center of campus in a way that unfortunately they're not able to do on many campuses. And it also gave them an opportunity to share their Jewish pride with their non-Jewish peers, which is very powerful. And I think we look for lots of opportunities like that, right? Whether it's engaging non-Jewish peers in conversations about the lived experience of Jews, through our Spread Cream Cheese Not Hate initiative, whether it's Shabbat and holidays, bringing Jews to Israel. We're going to bring over 400 of our students to Israel in May. Those are all really important opportunities where our students can find joy and meaning and belonging.
That really is terrific. And how do you manage one of the largest Hillel chapters in the country?
It's a great question, and it's a huge challenge. I think, a campus like ours, where we have so many Jewish students, it's vitally important for us to engage every Jewish student and to help them connect with one another in the Jewish community. One of the areas that we really excel is we have amazing students who are engaging their peers, who are helping to create opportunities that celebrate Jewish life and Jewish joy. So while the challenges are really significant at a campus like ours, particularly one that is sort of removed from large Jewish population centers, and the support that entails, we're working really hard to meet all of our students and make sure that they have access to a vibrant Jewish life.
And how do you make sure that the students don't get lost in such a big crowd?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's a reality of a large campus, right? Is that it's easy for students to sort of fall between the cracks. And I think the approach that we take is one that really focuses on relationships, right? Having our team, our professional team, build personal relationships with students, but probably more significantly, empowering our student leaders to engage their peers and help connect them to Jewish life. Our success in any number of initiatives, our Israel travel program is probably a good example, right? That's really students going to their peers and saying, Israel travel is important. It's important to me. I think it would be meaningful to you, and I want you to sign up. And they do it in record number. So our ability to sort of empower students is really at the core of making sure that we reach every Jewish student.
That's fantastic. How has the university responded to recent anti-Israel protests?
We're really fortunate that the university has had a robust response to anti-Israel protests. We're a public university. The university, students have a right to free speech, but they need to follow the university's regulations. So the university has been really sort of zealous in the enforcement of time, place, and manner restrictions. And that's helped to ensure that Jewish students feel safe on campus. I think, please, go ahead.
No. I was just going to mention that at one point you had a president who took a public stance. I wrote an article in the Wall Street Journal about the importance of keeping your Jewish students safe.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think leadership goes a long way. When President Sass, when he was president, shortly after October 7th, made very public statements, including the one you referenced and in other settings, that signaled very powerfully to the university community that the Jewish students were safe and welcome here. And similarly, the university's strong enforcement of regulations, including bans on camping on campus and other time, place, and manner restrictions, have made very clear that certain types of anti-Semitic and anti-Israel activity won't be tolerated. I think people often ask me if we have anti-Semitism at the University of Florida, and I think we would be naive to think that we didn't. Anti-Semitism exists everywhere. We're fortunate, though, that the university has responded in a way that affirms that Jewish students belong. So it's less about whether we have anti-Semitism and much more about how the university responds to it. And I'm proud of how our colleagues have responded, and I'm proud of the educational work that we do to help educate, we at Hillel do, to help educate university administrators, university police, really across the board about the needs of Jewish students so they can be, sort of more robust in their response.
Well, it's great that they're so receptive. That's so critical. Is the administration doing enough to combat the hate speech?
Yeah, I think the university, it's a challenge, right? So much of the anti-Semitic activity we see now exists in interpersonal spaces, at least on our campus, right? It exists in individual conversations between students. It exists in group chats. It exists online. And that's very hard for universities to police. What we need to be doing, I think, is really trying to change the culture, a culture where all students better understand the Jewish student experience and how comments that sometimes are made innocuously can be really hurtful to Jewish students, right? So trying to create systems where the campus community is more broadly aware of how speech can impact Jewish students and what anti-Semitism looks like, that's vitally important. And there's certainly a lot more work that can be done in terms of creating that sort of educational space. When it comes to the most vitriolic forms of anti-Semitism that we often read about in the news, the university is very strong. Unfortunately, it is these subtler forms of anti-Semitism that are far more pervasive and I think far more detrimental to our students. And that's why we need to really have a robust educational response. And it's something that we work on all the time in lots of different ways.
How valuable is your partnership with our Jewish Federation?
The Federation system, it has been our oldest and most valued partner, and the Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County has really stood out over the past several years at really investing in Jewish life at the University of Florida in particular. You asked me earlier about how we deal with having such a large Jewish student population. It's a tremendous challenge. And it's a particular challenge because we don't have a large local Jewish population that can support us in the way that many other Hillels do. So the Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County has really sort of taken us under their wing. They've invested heavily in helping us increase our staff. They funded an engagement professional who focuses on first-year students to help them adjust to Jewish life on campus, which has been a huge impact as a designated gift. We're just incredibly grateful for their ongoing support and partnership. Grateful to all of you who make that possible and really enrich the lives of our students in ways that are impacting the future.
Well, I really thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to talk with us and continue all that you're doing. It's wonderful. It's just a thriving Hillel. Thank you so much, Rabbi Zinn.
Thanks for having me.
This program is sponsored by Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County.